All right, Nuggets fans, welcome into Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends here at FanDuel and Mile High Sports. I'm your host, Ryan Blackburn at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I am here. I am ready to discuss the Denver Nuggets and the start of a fantastic NBA season. Really looking forward to this year. Really excited for everything that's to come. There's plenty of storylines, plenty of wrinkles that we're sure to see. The Nuggets have such high expectations, and there's so much that we'll be able to cover that I'm looking forward to cover here on Mile High Sports. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit that like button when you get here. Hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. On today's episode, we're going to go over opening night. Last night was a successful one for NBC and the NBA. Christian Braun extended, Peyton Watson not. We'll talk about that decision for the Nuggets that happened on Monday right after I did my show on then. So we'll cover that briefly before moving into season and NBA award and playoff predictions. All of the things that you want to know, what's going to happen this season, how's the year going to look like. Very excited for sharing some of those with you. But first, let's get into opening night. Let's talk about what was a very interesting night in the NBA, led off by the ring ceremony for OKC and the lead up from NBC as they were debuting on, like, for the first time in 23 years, NBA coverage. There's been a lot of discussion about the way that the NBA is covered, the way that is portrayed, how TNT did things, how ESPN has done things. Now you're adding NBC into the fold. You'll add Prime into the fold on Friday. I believe that that's the first day that Amazon is going to get their hands on NBA coverage at all. If the NFL is any indication, Prime getting their hands on some coverage for sports is a good thing. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. But it was really good. It was just genuinely a fun experience to watch the games last night. And one of those things that you don't know how it's going to go. Is it going to just all be nostalgia? Is it just going to, like, is it going to fit for a certain crowd? Is that going to really translate for the rest of the NBA audience? And as it turns out, absolutely. It was a really good experience. I thought that the televising of the starting lineup intros, the showing of the crowd, just everything that they kind of did to lead into how important this moment was for both of those teams. Really important, really impressive. And it built up to what was a very good game, a very good performance between both OKC and Houston. OKC without Jalen Williams, Houston without Fred VanVleet, obviously, to start the year and like for the entire season there. But that game was really fun. It was an enjoyable game. Obviously, Nuggets fans not going to like the fact that OKC ended up winning, and they did so in double overtime. But it was a really enjoyable night for the NBA. And then you had Golden State and the Lakers, and that was less enjoyable, obviously, but still thought that, and like Mad Dog says it here, Grace says happy Wednesday to you, Grace. Mad Dog says OKC and the Rockets combined for 24 of 91 from three. You're right. Like, it was a bad shooting night, and yet it still felt like intense. It still felt like both these teams are really going hard. The build up to the moment was very important, and it was a great way to kind of kick off the NBA. There will be times where the shooting is way better. Obviously, there wasn't good shooting, and if you're both of those teams, like, you're missing Jalen Williams, you're missing Isaiah Joe as well. I think they're missing Kenrich Williams as well. So their depth was not what it probably could have been. And then on Houston's side, we knew that shooting was going to be a pretty big weakness for them coming in, but it still felt like the intensity and the skill level that Alperen Şengün brought to the table. Shea obviously did his thing in the fourth quarter and the couple of overtime periods to help them win that game. The defense on both sides was very good. And it was a fun style of play for Houston, despite the fact that they were clearly overwhelmed in some ways. Uh, it was still a really great showing from them. They brought it, and to be able to start Kevin Durant at the shooting guard position, Jabari Smith at the 3, Şengün at the 4, and Adams at the 5. It's just interesting, and it was a very intriguing wrinkle on the opening night of the NBA, and just nice to see. The competition in the West is going to be great. Denver, if they are going to win the Western Conference, if they're going to win the NBA Finals, they're going to have to bring a different level. They're going to have to be better than the Thunder were last year. I do think that the Thunder will be more vulnerable in some ways, but they're going to be like the Thunder are going to be tested throughout the season, and it's going to be up to like Denver and others to supplant them, not just to outlast them in different ways. Like Denver, when they won the championship, they broke down in that Minnesota series the following year. They didn't have the energy. I don't think that that's going to be an OKC thing, and you certainly can't count on that if you're the Nuggets. So they're going to have to rise in their level. All of these teams are going to have to rise in their level, and for Houston, it looked like they stepped it up. They have a different level about them. Obviously, KD wasn't at his best last night. He only 23 points and could have been a little bit more engaged in, not engaged, but like involved in the actions, especially towards the end. But Şengün picked up the difference. Amen Thompson looks like he's going to be a star. That Houston team's going to be tougher than I thought they were going to be, especially in these predictions that I'm about to put out there. So will be interesting to see. But I thought that opening night, like certainly the opening game, was successful for the NBA, and they deserve a whole bunch of credit for this matchup and the intensity that was brought. I think that's a good representation for other like kind of casual fans in terms of what they can expect from the NBA on a nightly basis. It's nice to get OKC really amping up the intensity and showing what they can be, showing what they already are. And Houston brought the juice themselves as well. So see what it looks like for both of those teams going forward. But the other game, I didn't get to watch the other game quite as much just in prepping for Locked On last night. And also the fact that the double overtime game, when you cut to the next game and it's midway through the second quarter, kind of missed some of the lead up there. But obviously they missed, like the Lakers specifically missed having LeBron. And it makes a lot of sense when they are so tied up in terms of salary to LeBron and Luka that when LeBron is not there, they're going to look like a completely different and almost inferior team to some of these other teams in their tier. Certainly on opening night, they were not ready. The Warriors looked like they were ready. Steph looks like he's ready. And it was interesting to see them start Jonathan Kuminga, of all people. I thought that they would start Al Horford, but nope, they're starting Jonathan Kuminga. They decided we're going to put Draymond Green on DeAndre Ayton, and that was a great decision because Ayton did not look very good. And there were plenty of players on the Golden State Warriors side where you felt, oh yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Gary Payton II is going to be good. Moses Moody for them will be good. Will Richard, surprisingly, a name that I did not expect to be talking about. I think he's a two-way guy, unless he's a 15th roster spot kind of guy, but it looked really good. Looked really good for the Warriors last night. And Jimmy Butler also bullying Austin Reeves into 5 fouls. Obviously, it's a lot of Jimmy Butler foul baiting, of course, and doing that normal stuff that he often does. So it's going to be annoying on Thursday. But all I know is that when the Nuggets play the Warriors tomorrow, it's going to be a tough one, and they're going to have to bring it because that Warriors team looks like they are ready to go, and they're in for a big year. So we'll see what big ultimately looks like for them. I'm not sure it's going to be anything crazier than like 52 wins, but we'll see what happens with them. So overall, like a really nice showing from NBC. I'm looking forward to the NBC nights. Denver plays their first game on Peacock, the streaming app for NBC, on Monday, like this coming Monday in about 5 days. They'll face the Minnesota Timberwolves on the road. That's going to be an interesting matchup, and I'm curious to see what that looks like. I watched on broadcast, I watched on NBC for this opening night games, but I'm going to be interested to see how many people are getting Peacock, just kind of like the barrier that it was for Prime for a lot of these folks. Everybody's going to have to stress out in order to find out how to get some of these games. Like, I know it's going to be a wrinkle for the entire audience. Oh, and yeah, Cody says here, the GOAT on the halftime show. I forgot to mention that. Like, first of all, NBC having the actual on-court halftime show where everybody was in person and they're able to kind of keep it there without focusing on commercials. That was great. Second of all, having Michael Jordan be able to speak was pretty cool. Mike Tirico, I thought, did a really good job in that interview, and also just in the game itself. Just think that there's a lot to like about this NBC product. So I am looking forward to seeing what happens with this, and think that there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff coming up for the NBA on NBC. I'm looking forward to it. Okay. Before we take a break, Christian Braun was extended earlier this week, and Peyton Watson was not. Both were eligible. Honestly, Cam Johnson was also eligible. Nikola Jokic also eligible. They did not get extensions either. Jokic, we've talked about before. Cam Johnson, I've actually talked about on Saturday, and I'm not surprised that it didn't ultimately work out. I think Denver is very much in the wait and see kind of mode. They do not want to commit too much long-term money. I think they feel like that's how they got into problems before. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's just a second apron desire to not have to pay it more so than anything. But c'est la vie. I think that the Christian Braun deal is a fair one. It does restrict the Nuggets in certain things. They will probably lose, if not Peyton Watson, then they'll certainly lose Jonas Valanciunas as a result of that deal. But if they believe that Christian Braun is going to be the player that they need him to be, if he's going to be a better version of himself in future years, like, that version of Christian Braun is worth plenty of money. It is worth more money than I think people are fully comfortable with. And they don't necessarily appreciate or agree with it because they think that Jokic makes everybody valuable. That's not entirely true. You need certain skill sets around him to maximize what Jokic is doing, but Christian Braun is one of those skill sets. And pairing those two together is a great idea. They've got on-court chemistry and off-court chemistry. Same thing with Jamal Murray. And if you've got those three lined up, then I think the Nuggets are going to have a chance for as long as they are all available. You can find guys like Bruce Brown, Tim Hardaway Jr., other veterans on veteran minimum contracts nowadays. That is a pretty common occurrence. There will be some other deals that the Nuggets are going to have to figure out. Like, they won't necessarily be able to get the taxpayer mid-level exception unless they find a way to dump Zeke Naji's contract, or if it's dumping Jonas Valanciunas' contract, or maybe they end up squeezing Peyton Watson. He takes the qualifying offer, and then you don't have him long-term. So there are certain ramifications for it. I have talked about the Aaron Gordon contract. It was the right deal for Denver to do at the time. It was a very generous deal from Aaron's perspective. Unfortunately, the Nuggets were not able to take advantage of the fact that he only made... Actually, you know what? They were able to take advantage of the fact that he signed for a lesser amount of money in this particular NBA calendar year. Rather than declining his option and extending, I really should upload the actual file so that people understand what I'm talking about. Where is it? Crap. I don't have... Actually, is that it? Okay, we'll go to this one. This one isn't perfect because it was a projection. That's not what I'm talking about. That's for later. For this is a projection. It's actually wrong because Christian's going to have an escalating contract, and obviously Peyton is going to have a lower, like he doesn't have a contract, so that doesn't exist. But this is what it looks at for the Aaron Gordon contract. If you look at his deal, the reason why it goes from $22.8 million to $31.9 million is because he opted into that $22.8 million player option and then extended for 40% increase to that in the next year, and then got, I think, 8% raises or 7.5% raises in the subsequent years after that. And so what that allowed Denver to do was then afford Cam Johnson, Jonas Valanciunas, getting Bruce Brown, getting Tim Hardaway Jr., getting all the other players that they had under lock and key. You see where Denver is from a luxury tax perspective right now. From a super tax perspective, they're here. They actually could have gone even higher. In retrospect, they didn't use it that well. I'm actually looking at this now and thinking, okay, well, really what the barrier is not it's not the luxury tax. It is the second apron. And so they had $15 million in space. They could still sign a minimum contract if they wanted to. Yeah, they're going to try to duck the tax because I think they're being a little cheap. It's not entirely due to cheapness. There is some reasons for why, but I don't know. Just the more I look at this, the more I think, okay, it would just be nice if Denver had kept like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope or something like that. But that's not here nor there. It is what it is. Okay, let's take a break. I hope that Denver extends, like they already got Christian Braun. I do hope that they retain Peyton Watson. I do hope that they find an opportunity to get him. If not, like it's the price of doing business in the NBA. There's a certain number of players and a certain amount of money that you can pay and also stay under the second apron. And Denver's up against it because they have they'll have the second priciest starting five in the NBA other than the Cleveland Cavaliers. So we'll get to that in just a minute. But when we come back, we will do season and award predictions for the NBA as well as playoff predictions across the league. Should be fun. We'll get back to it here on Pickaxe and Roll. This podcast is brought to you by Delete Me. Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone feel vulnerable. Data brokers, they profit off of your data. It's a commodity. Anyone on the web can buy your private details. This can lead to identity theft, phishing attempts, and harassment. Have you ever been the victim of identity theft, harassment, doxing? If you haven't, you probably know someone who has. Delete Me can help. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now at a special discount for our listeners. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to deleteme.com/hit and use promo code HIT at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/HIT and enter code HIT at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/HIT, code HIT. All right, we are back. Pickaxe and Roll, Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. Obviously, a little bit off in terms of the salary cap stuff. I wish I could be able to sit down and talk with the front office and the ownership group in terms of identifying what the barriers are. And what the overall goal, not the goal, but like what the point of no return is for the Nuggets. Is it the second apron? Are they never allowed to go into that? Right now, there's only one NBA team that has gone into the second apron. That is the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I think that's that's a pretty strong indication of where the NBA thinks that is at. So we'll see what happens, but as the salary cap continues to go up, the NBA will continue to spend more, but there's no like the penalties for spending excessively are pretty high. And so, like clearly across the NBA, unless you are a team that is desperately in need for an NBA title, you are probably not going to go into the second apron, which is why only the Cleveland Cavaliers are going into the second apron. And I think that makes sense. Cody asks, Denver has first rights to refusal on PWAT, if I'm understanding it correctly. Actually, he didn't ask that, but yeah, so they can match whatever his next contract is. And I think that they will probably bet against they're certainly betting against the idea that Peyton Watson's going to get a large contract on restricted free agency. And if he does get a contract that they feel like they can stomach, then they will take it. I kind of don't believe that they will. I kind of think that they will probably just let him go. And this will probably be the last year for Peyton Watson in a Nuggets uniform, unless the contract that he gets signed to is low enough that they feel like they can fit it into their books, which is too bad. Like that is the ultimate sign of the. Oop. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys see me? Did something go down? Did my internet go down? uh, well, all right. Well, I think we're still live. I think we're still live. That was weird. Uh, yeah, that was odd. Sorry for that, folks. I'll maybe edit in post. Okay. Cool. Let's get into the second half of the show. I wanted to do some predictions, kind of talk about some things that I put on social. Let's go with the Eastern Conference first. Uh, All right. Don't know if you guys can hear me. I don't think I'm in the stream. May not be in the stream. Going to try to end the stream, and I'll when I get some actual internet is going down on my hands. We'll cut it off. I'll see you later. Maybe.